Hello and welcome to the Photo Bar, the podcast talking all about the business and lifestyle photography while drinking beer. This is episode number 11, Imposter Syndrome. Hey, my name is Matt Druin, and my goal is to help you become a better person, a better photographer, and a better entrepreneur. Also, I have my good friend Amanda Summerlin joining me here again. So what
hey, Matt.
You been up to? Hey, what's going on?
Not too bad. How you been?
Super awesome.
Anything exciting happening in your studio today?
No, a whole lot. I played PJ Masks with my son. We went to the park. We played in a pile of leaves. And then
You got to go outside today?
Yeah, I did. It rained all day yesterday, so we couldn't go out and play in the leaves and stuff like we had planned, so we did that today.
I'm jealous. I haven't been outside in days.
Oh, why not? Don't you have projects to do out there?
No, it's a weekday, so I've been in here editing. My butt. I'm pretty sure my butt's growing roots to my chair.
Doing work stuff.
Right, just editing. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do a whole lot of actual work stuff today. I did. I finalized my all my travel stuff for San Francisco today, and then because I have a wedding there in December.
Yay!
And then what else did I do? I worked on the podcast side a lot. I'm trying to get all that stuff up and going so we can get this thing launched out there, you know?
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we drank all this beer for nothing.
Well, I wouldn't say it's for nothing. We have sampled quite a few.
So I had a little get your crap together moment today.
Oh, hang on. Before we jump into everything, let's order a beer real quick.
All right.
So what beer are you drinking today?
Today I am drinking Sunset Coffee from Golden Road Brewing. It's an oatmeal milk stout.
That sounds interesting.
Sunset with coffee. Yeah. So I'm excited. I love beer and I love coffee, and here's a beer with coffee in it.
That's why it sounds so fascinating, because I love both as well.
Right.
Let's see. What am I? I'm ordering a Sweetwater 420, the extra pale ale version. It's kind of a staple here in Atlanta, I think. Don't you think?
Pretty much. I mean, they're based out of here. They are.
Yeah, Sweetwater is. But I think this particular 420 extra pale ale you can pretty much find on all the menus. It's like the go-to everything, you know?
Yeah, it's on tap at a lot of places here in Atlanta. I don't know about anywhere else, but look at this, how dark it is. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that is good looking. Does it taste good?
Right.
Oh, you haven't tasted it yet, huh?
I'm still waiting for it to settle.
Well, I know mine's good because I drink it a lot, especially in the summertime.
Is that your go-to summer beer?
Yeah, it's definitely one of them. It's on my top list.
Whoa, that's like bitter like coffee. Ooh, it's exciting. Oh, and it smells just like coffee.
It looks like it smells good.
Right? It's kind of wild how much like coffee it smells. It's really strong. I wonder if that's going to be a bad thing in a minute. It's pretty good right now, though.
All right, good deal.
It's nice and bitter.
So, sorry to interrupt whatever you're doing.
No
get
problem.
Those beer orders in, you know.
Yeah, we got to get to the important stuff.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I had, one of those moments where just a strong reminder about, how you should pay attention to your process. And I got an email. Well, actually, let me back up. I was going through my inquiries, and, I haven't been on top of following up. So I sent an email out to a client. They inquired about, 4 or 5 weeks ago, which is my bad. And I never followed up. I mean, I replied to them, obviously, but I never followed up. And so I emailed them back and said, hey, are you still looking for a photographer? Because I'm still available on that date. Totally my ideal client, all the things that I loved about a client. And they emailed me back and said, oh, we never saw your original email. We've already hired somebody else. We really wanted to work with you. I'm like, oh.
Damn.
So, and it was a, Bay Area wedding in August. So it would have been really lovely.
Jeez, man, that really sucks.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where, you get swamped in the middle of wedding season and you don't stay on top of your process. My normal process is to reply, wait about 3 days, send another email out, say, hey, did you get that email? Do you have any questions? Wait another week, send one more, and I just didn't do any of that.
Do you have any kind of automation set up for those emails?
I do. It's an automation that reminds me to send it, though. It doesn't automatically send it. I don't, sometimes people reply back really quickly, so I don't want that stuff going out You know, so it's just one of those moments where I got, over my head in wedding season, shooting and traveling and editing and putting shipments out the door, and I didn't pay attention to the details, and that's how you get in trouble in business. I learned that in my last business. It's really easy to get so busy doing your job that you don't get more work.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's kind of funny. You know how people always when they get super busy, they kind of stop marketing,
Yes.
And then that's the time when you really need to be marketing.
The most.
And then when they start slowing down and they start running out of money, they're like, well, fuck, I need to start marketing again. But it's too late. Yeah, that's it. Hey, yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, though, doesn't it? But I'm happy to help out.
It definitely sucks, but I mean, it's good for the podcast because it probably helps some other people out. And I'm sure you've learned a good lesson.
Me out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to look into coming up with a better system for myself for my busy season, I think.
Hey, I've already told you about Sprout Studio.
I know. I might be trying to get a virtual assistant this year too.
That'd be cool. I'll let's see how that goes. 'Cause I've kind of thought about that too. I have a friend who has a virtual assistant, and I guess the person used to live locally. They used to help her out, and then she moved. So now they do everything virtually and stuff. Still, maybe I can talk to her. Maybe we can have her on and maybe talk about that or something.
That would be pretty cool. I would love to know how the system works because it's something I've sort of, very lightly investigated, but I haven't really looked into it in depth.
Yeah, let me talk to her. Maybe we can have her at the bar here, give her a drink.
Nice. So, what's that on your shirt there?
Oh, this is the Spitfire logo. It's a skateboard company.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's
pretty intense.
Flaming head.
I know. It's kind of it looks like a portrait of me almost, and I was wondering. I was like, man, I know you really dig me and stuff, but that's kind of wild.
Yeah, it's not that creepy.
I'm just wondering if I wore that, would that be just too much?
No, I think it's cool, man. I love it.
Because he's got the same hair as me.
Very similar.
Right.
But, yeah, I guess let's jump into today's topic. Yes?
Right. Let's go from bad hair to imposter syndrome. That works out pretty well.
Yeah, that's it. Today we are talking about imposter syndrome, and you actually kind of brought my awareness to this.
Yeah, we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, and I said imposter syndrome, and you're like, what's that? And
when I was talking about how I was feeling and stuff, and you're like, yeah, it's called imposter syndrome. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know that.
And I was wondering if it was just a girl thing, because everything I've seen about imposter syndrome seems to be about women and how they feel, and I genuinely wondered if men felt that way.
No, that's interesting. I guess maybe we should probably explain what that is, so in case people don't know, like I didn't know. But so I guess basically it's like the concept that describes when people feel, I guess, unable to internalize their own accomplishments, or recognize their accomplishments. Yeah. And often they feel like fearful, I guess, of being exposed as a fraud.
Right, like you're totally faking it and nobody knows yet, but they're going to figure it out any minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. And I definitely have suffered for that, especially, within business and stuff. I mean, what about you? Is that something that you've dealt with too? Or do you deal with it?
Constantly. I mean, I'm weird because I have an overabundance of confidence, and at the same time, I'm paralyzed by fear a lot of the time. Yeah. I just got back from a wedding conference where I was surrounded by a lot of people who I really admire, and in those particular situations, it's something that it's very hard to beat down because you're surrounded by people who you've been following, whose work you're familiar with, and you're sitting in a room wondering if you belong there at all, and that's really intense,
No, yeah, I'm right there with you. And honestly, I'm sure other people, say outside the photography world and stuff, and maybe outside the entrepreneurship world, feel this too. But I think it's very something that a lot of creatives probably deal with, or maybe even entrepreneurs deal with, to where we just never feel like we're qualified. Yeah. It's like who am I to run a photography business? Who am I to charge X amount of dollars for weddings or for portraits or boudoir or whatever? Who am I to teach workshops? Who am I to own a podcast?
Exactly.
That's the way I feel quite often. It's like sometimes I look at how much like I charge for weddings and stuff. I'm like, dude, who am I to charge this much for
Yeah.
weddings? Or like, that was one of the biggest things like starting this whole podcast. I literally put it off for almost a year because I kept thinking to myself like, well, who am I to start a podcast? Who am I to educate? Who am I to talk about any of this stuff?
Yeah.
You know?
But look
like,
how freaking cool it is. So, I mean, obviously we need to be doing this, right?
No, now that I'm into it, yeah, it's gotten
fun.
easier, but
Yeah.
I still continuously deal with that same imposter syndrome feeling quite often. Like I feel like
Do you have a hard time raising your prices or changing any of your your requirements in your business? Do you find it hard to interact with clients when they have questions for you?
No, never. None of that stuff.
No?
No.
None of that stuff. You don't question your rates. Like I need.
No,
I mean, right now I need to do a rate increase, and I'm struggling with it because it's the economy is a little off, and I've run the numbers. Things cost a little more. Travel costs a little more. Whatever. I do need to do a minor increase in order to maintain my status. But at the same time, it's a struggle because what if nobody books me again?
And I think there's a scary factor to that too,
Right?
aside from
Every
like the
time.
imposter syndrome aspect of it, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, because you're supposed to know that you're worth what you're worth, but at the same time,
Exactly.
it's always scary
Yeah.
to do that because you always wonder if that's the final, notch,
straw.
and
Yeah.
and they're never going to book you again, and that's the end of it.
But I guess worst case, you can always lower your prices back.
I guess you
know.
could.
But
That's a lot of work because I
you
have to go
typically don't
change all
wanna
my
do
web
that, but yeah.
pages.
I don't deal with it like on that level like you do. I guess mine's more just like me personally internally. Like I have no problem raising prices. I have no problem making changes in the business or any of that stuff. It's more just like me always questioning myself, I guess. Especially when it comes more, I guess, to the stuff of like the podcast and kind of putting help and education out to other photographers and stuff, But
Yeah.
My wife is really good at helping me, I guess, with that sort of thing. She always kind of points out like you literally just got a camera 7 years ago and you've already turned this into a full-time career within the first year. But now it's like obviously you've gotten so much better over the last 7 years, So you definitely have something to be able to show and teach somebody,
Sure.
That's a good point, And she always reminds me of stuff like that,
She sounds pretty smart.
Yeah, she's a girl, so I've heard they're smart.
The smartest. And I have gotten to the point in my career where creatives are hiring me, other creatives. And this has probably been happening for 3 years or so now, and it's starting to happen more often, where I'll work for someone who's a professional creative, like a graphic designer. I've had like three graphic designers have hired me recently. Other photographers hire me.
I think that's the worst. Or the
And
scariest. It's the scariest. It's when
It is
other
absolutely
photographers
the
hire you.
scariest. So I've got an engagement session this weekend with a photographer who's local to Atlanta, and I really admire her work. I've been actually following her for a couple of years now, and I've got to go make engagement photos with her and her fiance. And you just have no idea how much prep work I've been doing here because it's exhilarating. It's super exciting to be able to work with someone like that. And it's also just absolutely paralyzing and terrifying because, what if I just completely drop the ball? Despite the fact that I don't drop the ball, I always am prepared and I always show up prepared. And I know that about me. Like, you have these two sides of your brain just fighting the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's kind of weird to sort of step back and look at myself acting like that, but
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's just kind of weird. I think a lot of it too, it's just us mentally. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the fear aspect, I guess. Because we're worst case scenario, like freaking everything. But once you get into the actual shooting part of it, then it's like, you're just in your zone. You're doing your thing, and it all turns out great. And I guess it's kind of like going to a wedding. Like you're always like thinking of all the shit that could happen and stuff. But once you get to the wedding, kind of get into your groove, it's just like another day,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely scared before every shoot. That has not changed, not ever.
Yeah,
it's
I would
bizarre.
say that the day that I'm not like kind of scared and nervous about a shoot is the day that I'm going to quit photography, because it means to me that I am no longer passionate and care about what I'm doing.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good point. Yeah, that's definitely true. If you're not nervous, and what about at the end? Do you feel like you've got great shit, or do you feel like you really just bombed it?
I typically it's usually kind of a mix. Like I feel like looking at the camera stuff, like I got all this great shit, and then I import it in, and I'm like, fuck, this is all garbage. But then as I go through the process of like, the post work of editing, kind of putting the story together, like for the vlog and the album and stuff, I just look back and I'm just like amazed. Like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. I've done it. Every single time I go through that same process. It's so weird. What about you?
Yeah.
Same thing?
Pretty much the same thing. It's like I'll be working and when you get a good shot a lot of the time, you just know. And so you start doing the little happy dance, but at the same time, you're still secretly worried, like, man, that looked really good on the back of my camera. I hope it's in focus, because sometimes there's just the slightest little thing and it can be just a little bit, soft or whatever and can wreck the shot, and I fight the urge to overshoot a lot of the time. I've been working very intentionally lately to pull back on shooting so much, because I go through phases where if I've blown a couple of good shots in recent times, then I might, the next time I go out, tend to overshoot just a little bit, and then that tends to sort of snowball a little bit, and then the next thing you know, you've got thousands of extra photos at a wedding, and that just creates more work. There's so much redundancy. So I'm especially in the past couple of months, with peak wedding season happening, traveling so much, just all the things that have been going on. I've noticed my shot count's been creeping up a little bit, and so I'm consciously working to pull that back and steady myself and get back into shooting when I know the shot is good, paying attention to all the indicators, and then
moving
on, because I don't need 6,000 shots from a wedding to call.
It's so funny because I've actually been doing the complete opposite. I've been shooting even more.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or not, but how I started doing some mentorship with Paul Rogers, but yeah, my increase of photos has gone up a lot, with intention. I'm not spraying and praying and just trying to like capture bullshit.
So what are you shooting more?
So a lot of what I've started doing is shooting a lot more through the moment. Like I've always kind of shot through the moment, but I'm shooting further before and after the moment than I initially was, and then I'm also spending even more time like just trying to get interesting angles and interesting shots and exploring different areas and views and stuff. More so, I've always done that, but now I'm doing it on a crazier level, like Dora the Explorer type level, so I'm just looking everywhere for any kind of angle,
getting on out
shot,
there, huh?
and I'm really trying to tell more in-depth stories in every photo. Like I want it to be a really in-depth story that will make up a bigger collective of the story, I guess. So yeah, my shot count has gone much higher.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do to manage all that anxiety and fear? Do you have any things that you sort of step back and do? Meditation and any of that stuff?
Yeah, I do a lot of different stuff. Because some of this, like a lot of this imposter syndrome feeling, it leads to depression for me a lot of times. I don't know if you like ever get depressed from this feeling of being an imposter, but for me, like I do, and I don't know. It's kind of debilitating to a degree. Like I don't suffer depression like some people do. Like they actually are depressed and they have much worse issues, I guess, depression-wise than I do. Mine just kind of come and go,
Yeah.
Like, especially like when you go into winter and like everything kind of slows down. Like you've been on that really crazy high of just like wedding season and everything's just going on. And it's all nonstop, and then you kind of start going to the slower times, and then all of a sudden you start feeling like a failure. Like okay, it's all coming to an end now. Like it's all just gonna come crashing down. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I do have a number of things that I do. Like, a lot of times, I start feeling this feeling when I'm trying to make a transition in my business, or when I'm trying to put out new stuff, like, I started the podcast or whatever. And I just really kind of focus on starting and creating stuff and just putting the shit out there. Like two people that I follow a lot, Gary Vee and Chase Jarvis, they always talk about like just putting shit out there, putting it out there, putting it out there, create, put it out, create, put it out. And it's not going to be the best. It's not going to be, the polished, finished product. But the more that you keep doing that, the faster and better you get at it, and the more polished everything becomes.
Right.
So that's definitely one of my ways. I guess another way is like really just to get offline. Disconnect from the interwebs.
Yeah.
And just keep your head down and just really keep focused on what you're trying to do. Whether it's working on your photography or building your business and stuff. But
well, I think it's important to not spend so much time looking at other people's stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever heard of the term halo effect?
I've played Halo the game, like the video game.
A little bit different. So the halo effect, it's like a term coined by a psychologist or somebody who it's really about, you tend to have an impression of someone or something that will influence your opinion in another area. So if you're looking at someone's pictures and they're really amazing, you're going to assume that they have their shit together, basically. That's the halo effect. It's like, this looks really good, so obviously they have their act together. You tend to assume that other people have their act together more than you do.
That's like fucking all of social media. Everybody lives this whole fake facade on social.
Exactly.
And putting the best everything forward, in reality.
But the reality is that we're all just,
a complete hot mess.
Sitting in a fetal position on the couch every night eating bonbons or whatever, right?
Yeah, right.
What the heck is a bonbon, actually? I don't even know. That's like from Married with Children or something.
Yeah, it's like some chocolate bon.
Bonbon? Well, I'm going to put that down as something I need to try.
Bonbon. I don't know if they even make them, do they?
I don't know. I read this book recently. It's called The Charisma Myth. And the premise of the book is that everyone can be like charismatic if they decide to. And that was interesting in itself. But what I really took away from the book that was the most important thing to me was that our brain is wired from an evolutionary standpoint to believe whatever it sees first, believe whatever it hears first. As a matter of survival. Think about when, the cavemen, they hear a rustling in the bushes. The caveman who believes that that's a saber-toothed tiger is going to be the one who lives.
Right.
And that doesn't exactly transfer very well into modern times, because we can't believe every scary thing. We can't believe everything that our brain tells itself, which is really bizarre that your brain talks to itself, but it does. And so you have to sort of counter that with other things. You have to tell yourself that that person is not doing it any differently than you are, most likely. They are struggling just like you are, and that you are the real deal. You have talent, you have intelligence. You have to counter that negative thought with a positive thought, because your brain's going to believe what you tell it. It's going to believe it if you keep telling it over and over again.
The power of the brain.
Absolutely, that positive thinking. And I thought that was really, really interesting, because it hadn't occurred to me that, it from just a standpoint of evolving over the millennia, it was important for us for most of the span of humankind to believe first and then ask questions later. And now that's almost completely reversed. Everything that we're presented with in modern times is not the truth.
No, it's not.
So we've had a complete reversal.
Fake news, we got advertising, we got marketing.
Right.
It's all
Everything
a facade. Social media. Yeah. That's a really interesting point. Yeah, I never thought about that.
And so, one of the things that I do when I start having a really hard time is I go back to my artist Bible. You ever heard of I'm going to tell you about another book, The War of Art?
I have. And I've read a little bit of that, but I haven't read the whole thing.
It's one of the most powerful books ever written for an artist, because it's written by this guy named Stephen Pressfield, and he names that fear that you feel. It's called resistance.
Interesting.
And it talks about the power of resistance. And every time you start to do something, that nagging fear in the back of your head, that's resistance, and you have to fight the resistance and move through it. It's a really great book because it's really a quick read. In fact, I can't even, and I've read it, I don't know, a dozen times at this point in my life. I can't read more than a chapter at a time because if I start reading it, I won't go to bed.
It's that good.
And I won't keep reading it. I'll read a chapter or two, and then I'll start a project. It's that powerful. It's like, it's that energizing.
Okay.
It really combats all that negativity. Just read a chapter and then go work on your project. But make sure you read it in the morning, and don't start reading it after 8 p.m. You're screwed. You're going to be up all night.
Yeah, that's I read every morning. That's actually part of my morning routine. So I read for 20 to 30 minutes every morning. So maybe I'll start. I'm gonna check that out. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I have owned so many copies of this book in my life, but I give it away. I literally just gave a copy away this weekend to a friend, and so I had to order it again this morning.
We'll make sure you use our Amazon affiliate link for that.
I should do that.
Yeah. Hey, I'll put this in the show notes for everybody. That way they can use our Amazon affiliate link and get
Put both books there because they're both really amazing.
Totally.
I like the Charisma Myth so much I bought the author's other book and I'm about to read it. It's something about a butterfly effect or something and making connections. So I'm excited to read that.
Okay. Well, we'll have to talk about that then. All right. Cool.
No.
What else do you do? Like for me, like I think talking to other people about
Absolutely.
like how you feel. I mean, not just imposter syndrome, but like dealing with depression. We should do an episode on depression actually. Not that we're experts or anything, but you know, like no matter what you're feeling and dealing with, like you need to reach out and talk to somebody all the time. You know, whether it's your friends, your spouse, a therapist, your dog. You know, just talking about that shit out loud really helps so much. You know, and if you have somebody intelligent, you know, then they can actually help by responding and giving you cool insight. And maybe I think a lot of times it's just good for people to listen. You know, like, and I have a hard time doing that sometimes, especially when my wife wants to tell me stuff. Like, I'm the problem solver, so she's always telling me about an issue, and my first instinct is to solve the shit. You know, figure out what's the quickest, most efficient, best way to do something. You know, and really all she wants to do is listen, have me listen. She doesn't want
sometimes
to solve the problem.
She just wants some sympathy. Just say, that
exactly.
sucks. Yeah.
And she always tells me, it's not about the nail. It's not about the nail. Like,
it's not about the nail.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think that's good. You know, just talk about stuff, you know? And I think...
What about working out? That always helps me.
Oh, fuck yeah, I love to work out. Like, that's like the daily thing, yeah.
Just go, you know, sweat it out sometimes. It helps so much just to get sent. And actually, it probably helps to get out of the studio every now and then, too.
Yeah, no, like, I'm really into working out. I go to the gym, you know, usually about 4 times a week. So I have a pretty set routine, all that sort of thing. But exercise is huge because one of the things it does is release chemicals and stuff in your brain that are all positive, that makes you do good shit, you know? And one of them is actually the same kind of, like, maybe you probably don't know, but, like, that sensation of, like, say, cocaine and stuff. It triggers the same types of
I cannot confirm nor deny. No.
Chemical reactions in your brain, you know, and that's when, like,
dopamines, right?
Yeah, when people get like that runner's high and stuff, it's the same thing, and that's what it is. But that's the type of stuff that helps you, you know, stay positive and stay kind of out of the depression zone and stuff like that. And also, like, what you eat. You know, I'm real focused on like eating real clean and stuff like that because that can cause a huge shift in depression, I guess, potentially imposter syndrome and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of eating clean, how's your beer?
Oh, it's super good, man. It's one of my go-tos, so it can never go bad.
Yeah.
How's yours doing? It looked good.
I'm gonna give it about 3 stars. It starts off good, but it starts to.
How many stars do we have?
I was assuming 5 stars.
Oh, okay. So out of 5, well, 3. That's pretty good. So
it's pretty good, but it's there's a little bit of, I don't know, I want to call it flat. It's like it has a flavor, and then there's like a sort of a dead zone in there, and it's really weird.
So it doesn't finish well, is what you're saying.
That's probably what I'm saying.
What you need to do probably is mix it with like chocolate and cigarettes, and then it'd be like a whole combination of like stuff, you know?
Cigarettes. Speaking of living clean, I think the bitter note is just a little bit too intense on the end. It goes to there's an off tone on the bitter note. It's not quite the right coffee bitter.
See, I'm not that well educated or fancy enough to be able denote
Oh,
that?
I'm not educated enough either because I don't have the words to say what it's doing. So that's something I need to study up on, especially if I'm going to start brewing this winter.
Well, finishing well sounds fancy, so it doesn't finish well. Is there anything else that you do? I guess to help with the imposter syndrome, to kind of bring it back.
You know, a lot of what I do kind of centers around just finishing my work. You know, all of that negative stuff comes in the middle of the work. You know, it comes in during the process. You know, I mean, because part of the process is getting ready.
Or before you start. Like, that's where I suffer a lot.
So, you know, you're getting ready to go do the shoot and you start having doubts, and then you get there and you start working, and then you get done and you start having doubts again. And so coming back and finishing the work and delivering the work and getting that feedback. Yeah, exactly. Getting that feedback and seeing those happy clients. And being thorough in your work while you're doing it, and not cutting corners, and making sure that you're doing the things you know you should be doing. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that for me is where my confidence is, because I know my technical stuff so well I can do it sleeping almost. You know, I don't have any doubts about my ability to make a correct exposure at all. That's not my doubt. You know, my insecurity comes in whether or not I'm going to be able to provide the experience to this client that they deserve, and create something that's unique for them. And I just remembering that, of course, I'm going to create something unique because it's a unique circumstance, and I can only create unique things from that. I think I used the word unique way too many times there, but you get the point. Okay. It's great. It got the thing across. But does that make sense, though? It's like you have no choice. It's a unique situation. You've never been here before. You've never worked with this client before. You've never had this weather before. All of these things combined.
That's life. Every single second is unique because it's never happened. You know, even if you repeat the same things, it's still unique every single time in its own nuances, I guess, you know.
And I guess that's where the fear comes from, because you don't know what's going to happen and you can't predict it. But at the same time, that's where all the beauty lies, because
exactly.
Yeah. And so just following your process and knowing your process helps. Getting it all the way to the end and getting that delivery, and then getting that email that says, "Oh my God, these photos take me back to the day I love them." You know.
Yeah,
that's the thing that we're working for, isn't it? I mean, that moment when they are just so happy.
Yeah, for sure.
When you've made somebody who you really like. I mean, I like my clients, and many of my clients I love, and so when they're happy, that's when you sit back and put your feet up and go, yeah, I got that.
Yeah, I get it, man. It's the same thing like with this podcast. You know, like before. Like I said, it was a whole year with this idea of doing this podcast before I actually did it, because of that imposter syndrome. You know, I just kept thinking, who am I? You know, why should I do this? And I think one thing that helped me is having like a mastermind group of other people that were on same or higher levels than I was, that could kind of confirm, like, dude, you know your shit. Like, you should do this. This is an amazing idea. And that's kind of what helped me initially start the whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
But, no, I definitely, we should do a episode on depression. And maybe we should do a couple, because I think that's a huge thing. And I don't think imposter syndrome itself is depression, but it can lead to depression. You know, and I think a lot of people suffer from that. So we should do a few episodes on that for sure. But do you have anything else on being an imposter? You know, are you secretly an imposter? Are you a double agent?
I could be, but I can't tell you if I was.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So we'll just pretend like you potentially could be, but you are not.
I'm probably not. Yeah, I'm probably not.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that's about all I got to say about imposter syndrome. Anything else you want to say?
No.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up. You know, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. You know, like, come over and join us in the Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/photobar podcast. And I want to know if you guys suffer from imposter syndrome. what you do to cope with it. Is there other situations that you've experienced it in? I'd like to know that. That'd be kind of interesting to know. You can also go to the main Facebook page, which is facebook.com/photobarpodcast, and there's a link to the group in there. Or you can email me directly at the photobarpodcast@gmail.com. It's just photobarpodcast@gmail.com. Don't put the D in there.
Whoops.
But if you want to check out my work, you can visit my website at matthewdruin.com, and my Instagram is @mattdruin. My Twitter is @matthewdruin, and Facebook is facebook.com/matthewdruin photography. What about you, Amanda?
Well, you can see my website at amandasummerlin.com. You can check me out on Instagram at theamandasummerlin.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/amandasummerlinphotography.
Hey, did you do the www?
I skipped it, dude, just because you make fun of me. Do you want me to do it again? www.amandasummerlin.com.
There we go. That's it. We got
right.
it. That's awesome. But yeah, make sure you guys never miss an episode. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Do it now, because I know you guys are going to forget in 5 minutes, and then you'll be screwed because you'll be missing all the great content. And share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your dog. Lastly,
dogs like me.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay, see?
I'm the dog whisperer. I was
go.
the dog whisperer before the dog whisperer was the dog whisperer.
Well, definitely share it with your dogs then. But lastly, if you got a few minutes, just leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts out, because it helps us stay motivated to create this great content and helps other people find the podcast so they too can find freedom in their own business and personal lives. But I guess that wraps up this episode, and we talk to you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Does it?
I'm like, I want to scrape my tongue. It has this bad aftertaste. I'm like,
So every single time you drink it, you have to scrape your tongue.
right? I just want to rub it off. I want to drink the other one now.